And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. With me, I have my good friend Vernon Kelly from the CVMK podcast. It is what it is podcast. It's great to have him back here again. Last time he was here, we actually did Trading Places, and now here we are doing True Lies. I hope that you guys enjoy this review. So, without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's review True Lies, scene by scene, and stripping away that nostalgia for the modern day rating. And hey, man, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate being back on.
You're very welcome. It's good to have you here. So my question for you is, man, what are you doing right now as far as your podcast goes?
Sure. So, we just started our new season. So the 2024-2025 kickoff is rounding out. I think we've dropped 2 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, I would say, in the last month. We got a lot more in the tank. Recorded one yesterday. We're building this thing out. I think for us is more about the actual business model, right? Obviously, we always want to have cool guests on like yourself, but there's also the inner workings behind the podcast. But I'm excited, man, and I'm excited to be on the show, and I'm excited to talk about this amazing film.
Me too, man. I'm excited to be able to do this. So my other question is this: as for when you first seen this, how old were you? Where did you see this movie? And what does this hold up for you as far as nostalgically?
So this movie came out in the 90s, but I did not see it originally when it first came out. I was too young. I think, my parents probably didn't allow me to watch this until I got to at least the age of 12. So it had to be somewhere in the late 90s when I saw True Lies for the first time. I would say my nostalgia rating, obviously, Arnold is Arnold. I'm not gonna say Arnold was Arnold. Arnold is Arnold. And in the 90s, Arnold was really Arnold, right? Like 80s, right. 90s, Arnold was the face. It was either him or Sylvester Stallone when it came to like action movies, right? And then a distant third would be like, Mel Gibson, right?
Or Van Damme or someone like that.
Yeah. So, Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, it was ahead of his time. I'd probably say it was a 9 or 10. And excitement, and then rewatching it as an adult, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6. Not because it's bad. It's just there's a lot of 90s-ness that didn't. It just looks now funny on screen.
Right, especially the dialogue or something like that too. That might actually feel a little off-putting as well. Exactly. So yeah, I totally get it, man. I totally get it. Nostalgically, for me, I'm gonna have to go at least a 7, just a straight up 7. Because here's the thing: I didn't see this in theaters. I didn't see it in theaters at all. As a matter of fact, I had it on VHS. So I don't have that thing of like, oh, my parents are gonna take me to go see this movie. I have it to where my grandmother winded up taking a VHS tape and recording it for me, and she sent it over to me, and I winded up watching it. And so that's where it holds up for me. It's just a 7 for me as far as nostalgically goes. I love Arnold. Every single time there was a new Arnold movie, I just felt like I had to go out to the movie theater to see see the Arnold film. Of course, Stallone. I had to go out to the movies to see a Stallone movie. Van Damme, even Steven Seagal at that time too. If you actually put him on that list as well for action stars in the 90s. But yeah, it's going to be a 7 for me. So now that we got that out of the way, so let's go on ahead. Let's start this up. So welcome everyone to another explosive episode of Movie Loversunite, where we dive into the cinematic gems that made us laugh, cry. In this case, we wish we had our own secret double life as a super spy. That's right. Today we're talking about True Lies, the movie that made every married person in the 90s paranoid that their spouse might actually be a secret agent, or worse, dancing the tango without them. And who could forget Arnold Schwarzenegger, the man who made us believe that you could balance a full-time job, be a loving husband, and still have time to defuse a nuclear bomb on your lunch break. It's the movie that taught us that if your spouse starts acting suspicious, don't worry. They're probably just saving the world or stalking you in a hilarious but slightly creepy way. Either way, it's all good fun. So, so the film opens up with basically kind of like a 007 kind of style. and which is something that I really loved about this, is something different from Arnold that we haven't seen before. He's a spy. He winds up coming out of the ice. Then you see him going into this mansion. You see Tom Arnold and the sidekick over there, and he's like, okay, he's in. Okay. And so I like how Arnold has a presence about him, speaking other languages, and he just seems like he's the smartest person in the room, and he's just taking over this whole entire party scene of these rich people.
Yeah.
And I like how he tells the other caterers, hey, go ahead, move that in the back. I want all this done. This is garbage. This is not good food. And then he goes over to the other rich people and he's like, hey, it's good to see you. And they was like, who's he? I don't know. What did you think of the opening scene?
You know, I think you hit it on the head. This is probably Arnold's first movie where he's smooth. And what I mean by that, like, the typical Arnold films was, you know, muscles, you know, Terminator. This movie came out in 94. So you think of, his earlier work, you know, it's very robotic almost. Not really highlighting Conan the Barbarian. You're not really getting what I would say the intellectual, smooth, diplomatic Arnold, right? And then the other thing was, this is I would say the descent of Arnold's physique. You know, he's still nice shape, but he's not Mr. Olympia anymore, right? So you're getting probably a very nuanced version of Arnold, and then the introduction of Tom Arnold into the movie. You're getting kind of that comedic element at the same time, like you mentioned. You know, he's in a tuxedo. He's saying phrases. I won't say they're full sentences. Looking back at it, I realized there was just literally like it was worse than learning a language on an app. He just was like, try to say it like this, you know. And but Arnold did his thing for the 90s. And I think what the movie was trying to create or trying to paint for the viewer is that this version of Arnold is the American dad. Right. And it's really that kind of 90s push. I would say something that differs from now. The 90s, as cool as it was, as creative, you really see the rise of hip hop. You know, hip hop came in the late 70s, but really the mainstream presence of it. But there's still this push, at least from a media perspective, of family values. And you get that in this film, right? So you start seeing Arnold as husband, as the family man, right? Like, oh, he did all this and then he made it in time for dinner. You know, you know, and
forget about time zones. He's just like, I'm just gonna go full throttle and do what I need to do.
Yeah, it's a little hard to watch. It was like, how did he get from one country to another? But anyway, so you know, but that's what you get. And shout out to that that decade of content creators, of filmmakers that had a playbook and stuck to it, right? So opening scene does remind you of a Pierce Brosnan James Bond, not like a Sean Connery, but definitely a Pierce Brosnan type James Bond. So I like the first scene.
Same here. And then of course, you know, he's doing the tango. I like how Tom Arnold's like, hey, look, forget about the tango. Look, do not do the tango. He winds up doing the tango. He winds up, and this actually does feel like a 007 movie, especially with the snowmobiles, him rushing out of there. And then the security bouncer's like, hey, look, what are you doing? He goes, and then he winds up pressing the button to detonate the bomb to get out of there because he ended up exploding all the cars. And then he winds up running over to where the van is and they get away. So I like the whole entire deal of you have this big muscle dude playing a James Bond type character where he's larger than life, if you think about it. Yeah. And he's not supposed to be a James Bond type of character because of how big he is. So he sticks out like a sore thumb, but it works because it's very different in the way that James Cameron did this. And you're right about the whole entire American Dad, because we never seen a story in the 90s other than Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but that comes out in the early 2000s,
right?
Where it's focused primarily on the family. So I liked how they actually had the family dynamic of this, of him trying to balance the family and trying to balance his secret life and things like that too. And this is actually where we go into the whole entire thing where Helen, his wife, and his daughter Dana, Harry Taskler is also he claims to be a computer hardware salesman, often away on business trips, but he is actually a secret agent of Omega Sector, a top secret U.S. counterterrorism agency. Harry, along with his teammate Albert Gibson and Fazale, infiltrates a party in Switzerland hosted by billionaire Jamal Khaled. At the party, Harry meets Juno Skinner, who he ends up doing the tango with, and that's who he winds up doing this whole entire deal where she's the art dealer, and also too she played in Wayne's World. The actress did.
Yeah, Juno.
Yeah. Which I had a huge crush on her on Wayne's World, and seeing her in this, I'm like, okay, as a kid, I'm like, yeah, I'm eating this up. But then it goes into the whole entire deal where, Harry winds up, he winds up going back home, and he winds up basically just sleeping next to his wife. I like how Gibb winds up giving him a snow globe.
Yeah.
And for his daughter, he goes, "What's this?" He goes, "That's for your daughter. Business trip. You take it home for your daughter." She opens it up. Okay, takes it, and next morning, Dana wakes up, and he goes, "Hey, I got you a gift." She goes, "A snow globe?" He goes, "Yeah." So she goes, "Oh, okay," and and he thinks that he nailed it. He thinks he got it. He's like, "Okay, good. I got her the gift. She loves it." Nope, she throws it away. And Jamie Lee Curtis is also busy doing her thing in the kitchen, being just a regular mom and stuff like that. And, just basically talking about her life and about what she's doing in her job and stuff. So I definitely like the family dynamic of that. And then Gibb comes in with the sunglasses, and then Harry winds up basically catching his daughter on camera because of the glasses, and he catches her stealing money.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of actually seeing Jamie Lee Curtis in this and having the whole entire dynamic of it? I mean, did you feel like the chemistry was there? Because it's so different to think that they would actually be husband and wife.
Yeah, so Jamie Lee Curtis is a legend. Shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis, the daughter of Tony Lee Curtis. Jamie is and has been her own woman. I feel like throughout her entire career. And I feel like she's always been in roles where even if she was not the star, it never felt like a co-role or co-star. Like she was just as dynamic, just as appealing, just as prominent as whoever was headlining, right? So when you see her, the camera does, or I would say the director, not the camera, but the director does a good job in trying to minimize her allure and minimize her visibility on the screen. She's wearing, gray, very dark gray, color schemes, 90s mom that is that's a paralegal. So I think creatively they were kind of at this role like, well, we don't want to necessarily put her in a traditional role that might create controversy in what we're trying to say. At the same time, we don't need her to be, like head of an organization. So let's make her a paralegal. Like she goes to work, but obviously from the looks of that house, from where it's located, her income is not driving that house. So it's funny looking back at it and saying, okay, I get you. Jamie Lee Curtis does a phenomenal job in really minimizing herself. Like you almost feel like she's not there until really the gift that you brought up, and then you start seeing her character evolve and unfold.
Right.
Then you start, you get the introduction of the sleazy car salesman liar, but you also get now this kind of like no, she's really, a boss, I think what separates that, and obviously that's a little bit further down, I hate to jump, but the dance scene that she does when
Oh
she
yeah, we're gonna get to
like it's
that.
another guy, right? But people don't. That's Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Like that's Jamie Lee being Jamie Lee, the short hair. Jamie Lee's always had short hair, and you got to figure coming from the era that she came in with, came in from, big hair was everything.
Right.
So to
Look
have
at right.
to have short hair in
Halloween.
the 80s. I mean, we mentioned Trading Places. She was
Right.
short haired then, so Jamie Lee Curtis, I know she won a Golden Globe award for this movie. But she really is the star of the movie. I know it's Arnold, but Jamie's the star of this movie and did a fantastic job.
I definitely agree with you on the fact that they kind of dressed her in like a more of a conservative kind of mother who is just being a paralegal, just doing the day-to-day life of a mother while also trying to do her job and also focusing on being a good wife and as a good mother too.
Right.
Laja Dooku is also in this movie. She plays the daughter of Dana, and she went on to play in the TV series Dollhouse, which was a pretty good series at that time. Remember watching that, and then she was also in The New Guy as well with DJ Hall.
She was in The New Guy.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. But then I like how he was like, "Can you believe it, Gib? She stole from me." He goes, "Well, what do you expect, Harry? You're not around." He goes, "What do you think we're doing here? You're not around or anything. Her role models are Axl Rose."
Oh yeah, but not Trading Places. And which is yeah. I felt like honestly she should have been in Trading Places. I'm looking that I hate it.
Right.
I'm not the Trading Places. Oh my god, Beverly Hills Cop. Like I think about it, that could have been Jamie Lee. Like they could have swapped the girl. All right.
Right.
Yeah, not to digress.
But yeah, Tom Arnold and him, the two actually do a fantastic job. It does feel like a buddy cop film.
Yeah.
With the two of them bouncing off of each other. And he's like, "Look, what do you expect? Her role models are Axl Rose." And then they go into the Omega thing, and you wind up finding out the top secret agency. You have this one guy that looks like Nick Fury. And basically that's what it looked like to me. He had like the little eye patch right there. And he goes, "Well, what do you know about this?" "Well, it's a terrorist organization. It's run by Abu." And he goes, "Well, gentlemen, this is not raising my skirt tails." And he goes, "So now they have to go over to see Juno." And then what winds up happening over there is he winds up doing. I like how he has to pre-do everything before he goes and see Juno. Like him and Gibb is over there basically saying, "Okay, so what's your job?" So he winds up reciting everything in the card, and he winds up doing it so smoothly when he goes and see Juno. And then he's pretending to be a decorator and wanting some stuff in his office, even though he has no intentions of even doing anything. And Juno's over there flirting with him. And he was wondering about the $2 million that they found on the record and stuff like that. And then, of course, after she leaves, Abu comes in. And this is just your over-the-top terrorist villain with no layers to him, but he's dumb as hell. He's a dummy because of the stupid, idiotic things he does. And his crew is also just as idiotic as he is.
Yeah. So you know what I will say, and I think you bring this point up. You know what's weird is that you get a sense in the movie that they really struggled between making a action comedy like a Rush Hour,
right,
and or making fun of just action movies. Like they didn't know, and maybe because it was so early in the 90s. Like if you think about your buddy cop films, you think of like Die Hard. I mean, even though he never had an official partner, but every movie he had like a strong sidekick, right?
Right.
You think of a Lethal
Weapon.
Yeah. But Lethal Weapon was funny enough, but it was always a serious film, right?
Right.
Whereas with Arnold, it's hard because Arnold's not Danny Glover, he's not Mel Gibson. Trying to get Arnold to, I think, be paired with someone that could match his presence, his screen presence, who would you get at that time? You were talking about early 90s, right? Like if you would have got an Eddie Murphy, it would have been Eddie Murphy's film, right?
Right.
If you would have got, Chris Farley was just starting to come up, so it's hard. Tom Arnold has to be funny enough to take your attention away. And then you realize, like you said, the bad guys are idiots. Like in everything, in planning. And I was looking at some of the even fight scenes. I was like, this is really bad. I didn't know if it was trying to be bad or it just ended up bad.
I think it was supposed to be a spoof on its own stuff of other action movies. That's what I saw it as, like a play on, your spy movies with action movies and stuff like that. That's what I've seen it as.
Yeah.
It's like a spoof on its own self and making fun of its own self, which works.
It works, but it works at, I don't know. It was just really bad. I like Arnold, but Arnold, this is not a. Thank God for Jamie Lee, because this had some interesting moments.
But also too, like, this is also when Arnold just got divorced from Roseanne as well, and he was looking, and they were basically. This was when Tom Arnold was starting to play in other movies after this. He did the movie Carpool. He's done other movies in the 90s. And because he was just trying to compete with Roseanne, I think. And so they're like, well, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead. We're going to put you alongside Arnold and see how it goes. And I think this was James Cameron trying to make a comeback for Tom during this time, too.
So that's
kind of like a resurgence.
So that's an interesting point. So if this is really, I would say, Tom Arnold's victory tour. You know what? I feel like Tom Arnold came 20 years too soon, or maybe 10 years too soon. And what I mean by that, because his humor is not slapstick. It's not like Chris Farley's was. No. Where it's over the top, Meatball Man on, not SNL, but all that, Nickelodeon, right? When he cameoed on the Keenan and Kel show, right? And did that. On all that, or the skits he's had on SNL or Tommy Boy. So it's not that. It's not Steve Carell's kind of like quirky, whatever, but it's very Seth Rogen-like.
He does have a little bit of a Seth Rogen, a little bit more of a laid back kind of sense of humor of the way he's actually portraying the character in a sense for Tom Arnold playing Gib.
And I think with Tom, like, I think Tom never got the movie Tom deserved to have.
No.
Like a permanent sidekick. That's what Tom Arnold is, right? Because he's not even the sidekick in this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis is the sidekick, technically. But Tom Arnold is like the third tier, right? He's Ant-Man, right? He's like the sidekick. So...
But then after this, though, too, you actually have this whole entire deal that happens after they leave Juneau. Because remember, they're being followed. Harry has to be home in time for his birthday because they're having a surprise having a birthday party for Harry. Wow. So then they look at Tom Arnold, Gib. He winds up looking in the back of the rearview mirror. He goes, "Hey, man, we're being followed here." So he's like, well, pull over here. So he gets out of the car. Then this is how much of to be honest with you, this is how much the friendship that they have. Yeah. Tom Arnold is basically his wingman. He calls up to Helen and he says, "Hey, look, Harry forgot something at the office. You know how Harry is." Mm-hmm. "Yeah, I do know how Harry is," which also means that he's not coming home until late. And so then all of a sudden you have that whole entire scene being played out where he's taking down all these guys that's followed him into the bathroom. He sees them with the glasses that he has because he has like the fake cigarettes there to actually be the sensor for the camera so he can see what's going on around him. And then he winds up taking the blow dryer off the wall, smacking the guy upside the head with it, and then jamming the guy's head into the commode stall, and then he's just shooting up the whole entire thing. And then you have one guy using the bathroom, which to be honest with you, I think the humor worked for that. Then you have Abu who comes in as well with his machine gun, looking underneath the stalls, shooting up the stalls, seeing if there's anybody there, and there's no one there. But I just thought that's very 90s to have a fight scene in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And to try and sneak up on somebody. And I just thought the action sequences for that shot was really good. I thought that still stands out as far as that goes. And then he takes them all down. But what did you think?
Yeah, I think like you said, there are some standout scenes. Obviously, that being one of them. I think kind of in that sequence, it's right before the kidnapping, right? So here's my take. I think that's very very on par with the genre, with that era. You know, kidnapped, the villains get them, tight corners, and then, you know, this amazing escape. You know, it's kind of tongue in cheek. My problem with that is that it doesn't feel organic. I don't mean like real. It's cinema, right? It's not, obviously it's not, but it should feel organic. I think what's hard in True Lies is that you connect with the lies of the characters because the lies of the character is actually their truth. So you
living the double life and lying to the wife, and
exactly. So that's what you build actually a connection with. You build a connection with trying to support a family, giving your all to a job, and this job creates this persona that others aren't aware of. The other thing you connect with is the forgotten spouse. You connect with the teenage, I would say young woman that is a teenager is becoming more of a young woman and going through that whole process. And so you start seeing yourself, but instead of saying like, that's me, or like, wow, or something that jars that definite like impression, I feel like it never lived up to that. And
I feel like,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. But we're gonna get into the whole entire chase scene though too.
Okay.
But I feel like Jamie Lee Curtis's story is a B-side story.
Yeah.
After watching it.
Yes.
Because we have two different plots going on at the same time.
Right.
It's like, okay, so we have plot A, which is the terrorist organization, the Juno secret spy thing. And then, of course, Harry lying to his wife. But then you have the B storyline, which we're going to get to in a minute, because then you find out how this goes full circle and how Jamie Lee Curtis is now part of this.
Right.
Even more. And she's not even meaning to be part of it. It just happens to land that way because of Arnold and because of the things that is going on around him that he's not even realizing what's going on around him. But but the whole entire chase scene with the horse was funny. Seeing Abu's riding on a dirt bike while Arnold is over there chasing him down with a horse. This is actually probably where they got John Wick Chapter 2 out of this, where he's chasing someone down on a horse. But I thought that worked out. I think it works for this kind of movie. It didn't take me out of it. I really felt like this is actually just one of those movies that you can just turn your brain off and just have a good time with without having to overanalyze it. And him chasing him down in this horse. And I like how you have Tom Arnold's character, Gibb, saying, where are you at? Goes, hurry up, I'm on 3rd Street, my horse is getting tired. What the hell you mean your horse is getting tired? And then he goes into the elevator, and also Abu's going in an elevator, but he's on Harry's on his horse, talking about being on a high horse, but but Harry's on his horse, going up. Then you have a Boo who's actually on a dirt bike in the elevator holding somebody else hostage. And they're going up all the way to the very top floor. And then you also have these two older couple that Harry's in there with. It goes, nice animal. And they both get off, and you see that that whole scene where now you have the dirt bike going off the Marriott hotel, going into a swimming pool, which of course every action movie has to have a swimming pool. Right. And of course, then you have the horse who just winds up just chickening out the whole entire time. He's like, nah, I'm good, man. I don't need to go. But I like how he goes, what kind of police horse are you? Really? But
no, so great scene on that. Can it be said that what the 90s produced was empty calories, and maybe entertainment at its best is empty calories? It's not supposed to make you think. It's supposed to entertain you. Right? Maybe that is the lost art. Maybe that's why there's so many different classics in that, or from that era. There are so many different memorable scenes. It's because they focused on just pure entertainment. There was nothing deep about it. There were flaws in lighting and filming and action sequences and stuff that now we go real ham over. Like, hold on, wait, if you do this, you're not gonna your trajectory punch is not gonna do that, so like people really break down the sequences and film shots, right? But I think that's the caveat there. Like, that's the focus. It's supposed to be empty calories. The reason why there is a lapse, the reason why you do have a B plot, which films don't really do much now. Like, if the B plot becomes the main plot, that's a sign of bad writing, right? And you really have two plots running simultaneously, right? So the scene to me that I think starts turning, the film turns at this scene, is when Jamie, first of all, it's not I don't get it, like, but this is naivety at its height. Jamie goes back to the salesman's apartment or whatever,
Well, remember this though, okay? So Arnold is going in to see his wife,
right,
at work. He gets down in the dumps because he finds out that, because of the fact that he found out that she's cheating on him or having an affair with on him.
Sorry.
So he winds up trying to take this whole entire spy thing to the next level by putting tracking devices in her purse and doing all that stuff. But I also like how Arnold's over there trying to be his best friend to try to just cheer him up. He goes, Helen's cheating on me. He goes, first time? Welcome to the party, pal. He goes, come here. And he goes, let me tell you something. It's going to be okay. It's going to work out. It's going to be fine. Look, I remember whenever I got married to my first wife and stuff, and we got a divorce. Did you know the bitch took the ice trays? What kind of person takes the ice trays? Come to find out, Roseanne actually took the ice trays. That actually really did happen.
Hey, Tom Arnold is a savage for that. If he wasn't, he'd be like, "What?" That was a funny scene. But okay, so even like that is funny. But even leading up, like when he's in the car with the used car salesman, like Arnold is, and he's like, so what do you tell them? He's like, I tell them whatever they want to hear.
And then also
I'm like, how did Arnold not want to hit this man?
But also too, when he's listening to the story being played out in the Chinese restaurant, he's realizing this used car salesman is taking credit for stuff that Harry did.
Yeah.
And Arnold's like, at first they're like, okay, they're going with the story because they're like, wait, is he working for FBI, CIA? Then he realized when he picks up the paper, even though they're not seeing him pick up the paper, basically you have that slime ball character, the sales cars man, gives Helen the newspaper. And she goes, wait, this was you? He goes, yeah, I was in Switzerland and everything. This all happened. I was running on the streets, and then Gabe just looks at Harry, goes, wait, he's taking credit for something you did. And then they wind up following the used car salesman all the way to this little cheap. You can definitely tell this is not a place that you want to buy a car from.
Not at
From
all.
this guy. And so, like you said, I'm just playing off of this of what you were saying, but he winds up testing out this old classic that looks really good. And he goes, yeah, man, I just tell them what they want to hear. You know? He goes, oh, that's really how it works. Yeah. Look, we have these old people who are just cramped up in their house, busy with their everyday life. They want some sense of adventure. They don't want the same old thing. So guess what? I just give them what they want. He goes, and it works? He goes, yeah, it works. And then next thing you know, he imagines him popping him in the mouth.
Yes.
I'll let you break that part down, though. But, yeah.
No, so he does. I mean, because you can see, so he's visible. First of all, Arnold is pissed at this point, right? So he's driving, and so there's a couple of things. First of all, the car's too small for Arnold. Arnold is like bigger than the frame of the car, and he's sitting there and he's just like, so, and he's almost trying. This is something that I always thought that was interesting. Arnold has the thickest German accent, and they never ever tried to mask it in any film. And so he'd just be like, yeah, so he's like, and then what do you tell him? And like it just, if you hear it, it really throws you for a loop. And then this guy's like, yeah, I just tell them whatever they want to hear. He's like, and then I got this one girl, and he's describing his wife. He's like, bro, like I honestly, that was a point that you could have broke the fourth wall on. It's a classic. Honestly, I would say it's one of the most iconic scenes in that movie. There's so many different elements that's going on, from the human satirical side of it to the flat out comedic side of it, to the point that's really actually when the movie starts to really pick up and like you start seeing like it really speed, right? And then after that, like the resurgence, because what True Lies really represents, it's a love story. It's a love story between a husband and wife trying to get to know each other in this new space and build something from it. And even though you don't think like this is a romantic comedy, but this is it's a romantic action comedy that doesn't give you those vibes literally until this scene, and then it starts to turn. And then this is where you really see Jamie Lee Curtis accelerate the film. Like this is the creativity and the geniusness of Jamie Lee Curtis, because from telling him no in his apartment, right? Like I don't want to do this, like to
go to Paris with me.
Yeah.
If you want to live, look, I need you as my wife.
Yeah.
It's the only way that they're going to believe it. You have to come with me. I need you. And then she actually goes to his trailer.
Yeah.
And then he goes, look at the tickets. And looks at the tickets. He goes, look, I need you. You need to come with me. And so she's like, at first she's like, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. And then she's like, okay, I'll go. And so at that point, he's also touching her leg, and it's also making her feel uncomfortable. And you see, they're going to know. They're going to notice that you're not my wife if you do that. You're not supposed to do that. Then at that point, Arnold's already making the aircraft, like the helicopters come in. He's got all that. And I like how Gibb is like, I'm going to go to hell for this. Because he's abusing it, but also too, Gibb is like, look, man, you're going outside your sector here. Do all this. Because really, I remember the time when you used special forces to have to investigate something when you had a BJ. Because you know about that? Because yeah, okay. Well, we need a couple of helicopters circling around. You're gonna want him to take a left-hand turn over here.
Yeah, yes. That's when the scene starts to really pick up. Honestly, after that, it becomes just hysterical.
Go ahead. Yeah, then they cut open the trailer, and then they all come busting in there.
Yeah, dude, it's the movie that we should review. And I'll drop this nugget. There's a movie that came out in the 60s called oh my god, it's with Bob Hope and Lucille Ball. And if what is it called? Enough. It's not called Affair to Remember, or is it called Affair? It's not called Affair to Remember, but it's something along that line. But it has a very True Lies feel towards it. But it's classic.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Shit, we're gonna have to check it out, and we're gonna do it on my podcast though. We're not gonna
we'll do it. We'll do it.
Right. We're gonna do it on mine, man, and we're gonna break it down. But back to that movie. So at that scene, you see really to me the love that Arnold has still for his wife, and the fight, right? Like the fight that he has for her, and it really starts to unfold. And this is why you have to know your spouse, right? You have to know your partner, because the dance scene that follows, right? Honestly, it is a scene that Jamie Lee Curtis is known for. Everybody can bring up the dance scene. I would love to hear Jamie's thoughts on that, because I feel like that was just Jamie being Jamie. But Jamie comes out, hair dyed black, just a complete, animal.
The way she ends up taking off that dress, she had this big dress with the shoulder pads and all that stuff, and then looked like a librarian from the 90s.
Yes.
Kind of look. And then she just makes it her own style, and it works. And I definitely liked how she ended up making that dress her own. And then you have Arnold with the tape recorder, because remember the guy who goes, "Who wants this shit? Who wants this?"
Oh yeah.
And the interrogation stuff though too, when they're interrogating Helen as well, and he goes, "Your name will be Doris." And so then they get the whole hotel thing, and she's just basically being a stripper, like just doing a strip tease for Harry.
Yeah.
And not even realizing it's Harry. And I like how Gabe is like, "Wait, why are we doing this?" Because she wants an adventure, so I'm gonna give it to her. So and so once the music kicks off, at first she's kind of stiff, she's kind of moving a little bit, not realizing what she's doing. And then you realize, oh, this is why Harry fell in love with her. Mm. This is what made him go, okay, this is why I love Helen. This has made me fall in love with Helen. Mm-hmm. And everything, because that spark, that energy, that drive that he had for her. And then he takes the rose, wanting to take the rose down to her stomach, and then that's when she takes the phone and hits him over the head, and then that's when Juno comes in. That's when we have A plot meets B plot, and it comes together.
True.
And it's just an accident, because Helen doesn't even know that's Harry's a spy or anything at this point, or anything either. So you have these two plots coming in together. Juno's like, "Who is this?" "Oh, this is just some hooker I met." But let her go.
That's funny.
He goes, "Harry, tell him that we're married. I've never seen this woman in my life or anything. I don't even know who she is." And she goes, "Really? Look." This is on the airplane. He goes, and then all of a sudden she gives Juno winds up taking the giving her a shot. She passes out. He goes, "So she really doesn't know who you are, huh, Harry?"
Mm-hmm. So that scene right there, so yeah, she comes in and blows the whole cover like, "Oh, thank you." It just it's flirtatiousness at what I would say it's the greatest form of flirtatiousness without being perverted. We're like, now I feel like if they would have shot that scene, it would have went so far left, it would have been distasteful. Like it was. So I heard LL say something. LL Cool J. He said, "You can do something distasteful as long as it doesn't taste bad." Right? That's the difference. Right. So like this is, quote unquote distasteful, but it doesn't taste bad. And it's pure fun. Like when you see it, her acting, like it's really like, oh my God, this is hilarious. But the transition that you start seeing is now both of them have their cards laid out, right? So he knows, that she is still in love with him. She knows that he has basically dedicated his life to saving the world, or at least the United States, and both of them have to find out a way to play off each other to get out of this, weird trapping. And it starts to really come together after that scene. And this is why I said, like, the car scene that leads up to the dance scene that leads up to this, it's truly, I would say, where True Lies hits his streak. It's like, bow, this is why the movie was made, for this, 30 minutes of airtime that runs. And the other thing I wanted to point out, if you notice, something that Arnold does not do, and this is a credit to him, Arnold never he never gets upset. Like emotions for Arnold is always here.
Right. Is that a medium?
It
right.
is like, and I don't know if that's just his personality, but if you've like watched any of his films, it doesn't matter what he's doing. Arnold is always here.
And center. Right.
Always centered. And it's crazy. And it works. In this particular film, it works because he's not overselling.
Right. He's not overselling it, but there is a point where he actually breaks that medium, though, especially whenever you get over to the. I know we talked about the used car salesman, but remember when he sees her, where I'm just going to touch on this for one little bit, but remember whenever they cut open the trailer and he's the car salesman is actually on top of her because he winds up tumbling on top of her on an accident. The way that he looked at him,
yeah,
he was pissed. Like, you never seen Arnold this mad before, in a movie. And he takes him and then he makes him crap on himself, piss on himself, and he's like, "Oh, it's you. So you thought about the vet? That car is made for you." But yeah, I just want to talk about the level of how pissed off he is. Like, through this movie, he's at a medium. When you see that one scene, he's at 100. Like, he's pissed, and he has, yeah.
No, he's definitely at 100. There's no doubt about it. When he sees this film, it is definitely a 100.
Especially that facial expression under the mask.
Yeah, he's at 100 at that point. Yeah, at that point, definitely.
But you're right, though, about another thing, though, too. The plot actually picks up towards the last 30 minutes of this movie. Yeah. Because now it's nothing but action. Now they're stuck in this room being interrogated by these terrorists. They're using a truth serum on them.
True.
And then you have Helen goes, "So how long have you been doing this?" "About 17 years. And then she's like, "So are we going to die?" "Yeah, we're probably going to die." "It's probably gonna go in here, cut our stomachs open." I'm not going for verbatim, but yeah, we're probably gonna die. We're gonna cut off our stomachs and maybe cut off our hands, and yeah, we're gonna die. And I'm like, oh god! And then you have the other person that's gonna go on ahead and torture them comes back. He goes, "So is the truth serum working?" "Uh-huh, it's working." And so he's like, "But I'm gonna wind up killing you." And I like how Harry describes how he's gonna, and how are you gonna do that? "I pick my lock. I pick my cuffs." It feels like a Japanese, one of those Bruce Lee movies that you would see. He's like, "Oh my!" And then he winds up taking the guy, and then he takes the crowbar, kills another guy, and drags him over into the shed. And I like how Jamie Lee Curtis goes, "I married Rambo."
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. That's, I'll say, but see, that's the comedic genius. Wow, the creative genius. Everybody knows that Arnold and Sylvester's competitive streak, and to mention Rambo in an Arnold film, right? Genius. And I feel like that wasn't even in the script.
I wouldn't be surprised if James put like a little nod there just to see, but I don't know. That's interesting to think about, though.
Yeah.
But I really love that play on it. And then finally, Helen finally has a chance of adventure, and she doesn't know what to do now because this is like too much for her. Because she takes an Uzi and she's shooting guys with it, but the recoil winds up making her make the gun fall out of her hand, and it winds up flipping over, killing everybody on an accident. And Harry's just looking at her like, what happened? But I just thought that was just a classic comedic moment for her. I thought that The fight scenes, the fight choreography, the action sequences really worked.
Yeah.
But also too, whenever you meet Abu and he's also interrogating Arnold, and he goes, "What's this?" He goes, "It's an espresso maker."
Oh yeah.
That was before that, but yeah. But what did you think of all this though that's going on?
So I mean, the film obviously is winding up, even though they kill old girl. They're just crazy because she's like the '90s crush. I mean, she was one of the it girls in the '90s. But I think what ends up happening, and where you can appreciate the greatness of this film, is that you see these two, you see this couple, you see this married couple, and you see like, okay, there's not even this ask for forgiveness because there's an understanding, like, I did all this for you, right? And I think you can appreciate it from that lens. The other thing is that you start seeing kind of the film come together, and everything that's been leading up to this point starting to make sense. There's a transitionary point that happens way before Arnold gets in that helicopter that really makes the film what it is. It's really in their escape.
Right.
It's also in the fact Jamie Lee Curtis's showdown with the girl,
With Juno, yeah, with Juno.
is, I would say, the climax of it all.
Right, because I was as I'm rewatching this and everything too, I didn't think about this until I rewatched it. I'm like, you have all that tension there from that plane ride of her talking about supposedly Harry slept with her, even though he didn't really sleep with her. It was just to get underneath Helen's skin, and you have all that anger, all that frustration there, and she just goes ham on Juno.
Yeah.
It punches her with her ring and then hits her with her with a wine. I like the fact that they actually made this realistic. How many times have you seen action movies where you hit someone upside the head with a glass and it breaks? This time you hit somebody upside the head with a wine bottle, a champagne bottle. It does not break.
Yeah.
And then I didn't notice this either, but she winds up taking the wine bottle and flips it in the air, catches it, and then hits her again. I'm like, okay, I didn't notice that before. She went ham on her, and then finally Harry's hanging upside the helicopter trying to reach for her out of the limo, and at that point they already shot the bridge out.
Right.
And Harry's like, "Helen, the bridge is out. Helen, and then she looks, "Harry, the bridge is out." I know. but just that scene alone, like you said, it's just the love that Helen and Harry have for each other is what you're sold on.
They do, and that's the love. And then it takes another turn. I think when Arnold gets in the jet plane, when he enters into the jet to get his daughter, right? It's the fight for family. That's really what it is. It's like, I'm fighting to save my family. I remember Tom's like, "Arnold, when was the last time you flown this thing?" You know,
it was like 10 years.
Yeah. And obviously, so you pay attention to that scene. There's a lot of zooming out, and because obviously it's not him in the the jet. But what it does signal is what they're trying to capture is how difficult it would be because technically there's not enough strip. Like,
no,
this thing almost has to ascend like a helicopter. Jets don't do that. Jets have a runway strip, right? So to kind of maneuver the way that it maneuvered and then to go, not only highlights the supposed skill of the of the pilot, but also it highlights the tension that is there, right? Like, a lot of times in life, you're given no room to be great or to do what you need to do, and you have to take all of this instrumentation and everything that makes you in this tight corridor with limited space and limited resource and still get the job done. It's allegorical, right? It's allegorical at that point. So shout out to the creativity and the director and really how they focused on the scene and what they were trying to really make you see, not just with a visible eye, but I think a deeper understanding of what is at stake here.
Right.
I really enjoyed it. From that point on, the film, and this is why I said, so in hindsight, I gave it a 6 in the beginning. Back to your question. I gave it a 6, not because the film wasn't great. It's because now redone, the B plot should have been the main plot. It wasn't an issue of her talent, budget, tech. It was you were trying to figure out the movie's identity. And then mistakenly you realized it's a love story. And instead of it being a love story from the beginning with all these other elements, you try to make it a very bondish, and then infuse the love story in it. So that's why.
I definitely could see your point, though, where basically this should have been the A plot, not the B plot.
Right.
But my question is this: would you need Juno? Would you need the terrorist to amplify that plot?
Yeah, I would say.
Do you feel like that it was secondary, or
No, I think Juno is necessary. I don't think so. In a recast, I'm director, right? I'm the director. I'm the executive producer. I'm making Juno the villain. I'm not even, the other guy. He can be left out. I feel like he was an extra in a main role. You make Juno the villain because Juno has the most dialogue anyway. She's screen friendly, and you can really present her in a way that makes you say you're always caught between two choices, and therefore you give more screen time to the Juno's development with Arnold, because what the film does not give you, this is why it might have been a 6 instead of a 9, is that you never felt that Arnold was ever really led away.
Right.
Even when he was, earlier in the film, even when he's in full spy mode, it's like it's full spy mode. It's really not him per se. That to me was a mistake. I think you do have to create temptation,
right?
The possibility of error, not erring, but always a possibility, so that from a viewer standpoint, you can say this person made a decision. Where it does feel like Arnold's decision was already made and without any type of consequence, thought process, collection of insight, and he just went forward, right? That's my only pushback. But yeah, I don't think Juno's a plot. I think Juno should have been a main character.
I think she should have. Yeah. Here's the thing. In the 90s, they didn't really give women a lot of strong structure.
That's true.
And if you notice, every single movie had a blonde, long legs, skinny, and that was it.
That's true.
And they didn't have no structure for women in acting at all. So you had to do what you had to do. I do agree. She should have been the person up front, not taking a back seat and gave it to Abu and everything. I think that she could have held on to these henchmen and still had that same gravitas as a man does. Because here's the thing, too, that I feel like. I think that you could actually still have those moments of when the camera dies, and then she winds up taking the cameraman and yelling at him, and have those moments like that and doing all those things. Because when Abu does it, it's over the top, and he's a bad terrorist. But you can also do the same things though too. Is like, you know what I'm saying? Do the same thing with Juno and give her more stuff to do, to where you have those layers, but also too. When you first meet Juno and Harry, I would think that he would sleep with her like a James Bond type and then wake up the next morning and go and see Helen like nothing even happened.
Yeah.
So I think that they needed to flesh that out a little bit more, in a sense, looking back on that. But
totally agree.
But the other thing I like though too is when you have Dana who's hanging off the reel. And Harry pops up with the jet, and she's like, "Dad?" It just throws her off off center because of the fact she's not expecting her dad to actually save her.
Right.
Then you have Abu who winds up accidentally I don't know why the dude has a backpack on, but it winds up being on the missile of the helicopter. I mean, not the helicopter, of the jet, and then all of a sudden you have that one-liner, "You're fired." And then he winds up firing him into the building, coming out of the building and hitting his own people with the missile.
Jeez.
So then, of course, you also have go into 1 year later. and him and his wife, now him and Helen are both doing the tango together
Yep.
and having the same repetitive stuff that you had from the very beginning. So, what did you think of that aspect at the end of it?
I thought the ending was great. I like the fact that she got to come with them. I also like the fact that they tied up all loose ends. So you see the sleazy car salesman actually being in his real job, which is a waiter, a busboy, and it really it shows that two people can live in the same dream. That's what it shows. That's unique. That's different. They didn't explore it heavily enough, but for them, the director, the producers, the writers, for the movie to have that element that Jamie is now a part of his world, and it's not his world anymore, it's their world. And they do these missions and whatnot, and Tom is there, right? it really is a full circle moment for the film.
Right, because now Helen becomes part of that team.
Yeah.
And now they're stuck doing the tango with him and Helen, and he thinks that Helen's going to actually help him, because he's like, "Come on, guys, not the tango. We have to go. Come on, hurry it up." But I like the bit that they do together. I thought it was good for the ending. For my modern day rating, I know I gave it a 7 before.
Yeah.
I might have to go down just a little bit to I'm going to go probably a 6.9.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact of they could have done more with Juno's character. They could have done more with setting up Harry and Helen's character a little bit more.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and establishing them a lot more. And even though they show both deceitfulness between the both of them, because of the fact that you're dealing with a husband who lies about his career, while also his wife is also dealing with everyday life, but also also finding attractiveness with this used car salesman who's taken advantage of her and faking to be a spy. I think they could have done a better job laying down the Harry and Helen story. And I think that, like you said, I think that it could have been better if they ended up giving Juno more to do and just focusing on her as the main villain.
I agree. I totally agree, man.
So what would you say your modern day rating would be?
So I would say my modern day rating, I'm going to go a little higher than you. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay.
The reason why I'm going to give it a 7.5 is simply it's empty calories. And I believe in this present state in our society, you need Diet Coke or Pepsi, because I'm not sponsored by either one, so I'm not going to give you that benefit of a free advertisement. What I mean by that, you want the taste, but you don't want the calories. You don't want the sugar. You don't want the weight gain, and everything doesn't have to be an agenda attached to it or be deep in messaging. Some things can just be innocently fun and immature,
right?
And and exacerbated, and it's okay, right? That's what the movie presents. It's not that the movie is well shot. There are obvious scenes of this could have been tighter. And it's not even because of the age, because there's movies. I mean, I would say Lethal Weapon 1, arguably Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, but probably more 2 is Lethal Weapon is a great
film. 2 is top tier for me because you have
the South Africans. Yeah.
Yes.
You could almost argue, could this have been nominated for an Academy Award? Like, there's a lot of not just iconic scenes, meeting Joe Pesci, there's comedic relief, there's Danny Glover, there's Male, there's a lot of components, there's a political, ideological component. I mean, there's just a lot going on in that film. But for this film, what makes it a 7.5 is like when it's Friday night, you've been at work all week, you just want to watch some laugh, something to eat popcorn, something to not remember in the morning. True Lies is that movie for you. Take 2 and call me in the morning.
I definitely agree on, man. I definitely agree with you on that because it's one of those movies that you can just shove popcorn in your face, enjoy it for what it is, just a feel good movie, just just to blow over for a long Friday night, working. And I actually bought this on 4K because it's the 30th anniversary of this film, and it's hard to believe this is actually 30 years, but this is actually one of those movies that I really enjoy watching from time to time. I'll put it on just to have a laugh, watching Tom Arnold do his thing, watching them back and forth, especially when Arnold goes, "Quit cheering me up."
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, all in all, great. I had fun with this. I'm glad that we got a chance to sit down and review this film. But yeah, guys, tell me what your nostalgic rating is. Give me a best out of 10. Also, too, if we stripped away your nostalgia, tell us also, too, what your non-nostalgic review is as well in the comment section, or just email me at movieloversunite@gmail.com. But also, too, this matter of fact, that we actually did our Beetlejuice review the other day.
Hey.
So we're getting set up for Beetlejuice. Let's see here. And then Friday, we're doing our anniversary for Uncle Buck coming up on Friday. So we're doing a John Candy's tribute in a way, but this is actually the anniversary of Uncle Buck because that's the release date that it came out at. So we're doing like a 40th anniversary for Uncle Buck. So I hope that you guys go on and check that out. I have Beth from the Made for Movie TV podcast coming on to review that with me at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time for that. For everybody living on the East Coast and California time and stuff like that. But Vernon, man, it's always a pleasure to have you, dude. I'm happy that we finally managed to be able to do this. But yeah, tell everybody about It Is What It Is one last time, and then we'll close out.
Y'all, it goes down on the hottest podcast, the CVMK show / It Is What It Is. Look, we bring it there. Check it out. Go to YouTube right now. One word, 4 letters, CVMK. Put it in, subscribe, hit like, share, comment, watch. Let's do it on Good Pods, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Music, it is there. I know it's there. YouTube Music. Put in CVMK show. And when you need supplements, you want to get that body you deserve, you know where you go. Your proteins, your creatines, your BCAAs, your pre-workouts. The one, the only, www.cvmkglobal.store.
There you go. And guys, go on ahead, give him a 10-star review on wherever you guys get your podcast from. Also, too, go on ahead, show me some love over at Movie Lovers Unite. Give me a 10-star review as well, where you guys get your podcast from. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that other good stuff, like Vernon said. Guys, it's going to be it. It's a pleasure, as always, to be able to do this show. So always, until next time, guys, have a great and safe night, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.